Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live. How are you and you and you? A toast to all of you around the world. Thanks for tuning in once again to our nightly, daily, every day, every night entertainment lifestyle talk show series. This is the Jim Masters Show Live worldwide. We thank everybody for tuning in from wherever you're watching. We have viewers literally from all over the world, and it continues to grow by leaps and bounds, and it's really very cool and really exceptional. And thanks to everybody who's spreading the word, who's telling everybody about the light, levity, and love, the inspiration, the amazing conversations we have about life, about our careers, about family, about everything, food, and you name it, sports and comedy. This show covers it all. It's a generalized entertainment lifestyle talk show series. Has grown out of my work as a television and radio host, presenter, and personality, and journalist, actor, writer, producer, MC, voiceover artist, narrator. And we sort of built this home studio 21 weeks ago and have been doing these shows every single night for 21 weeks. And we're inching in on, I think, about 150 episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live thus far, which is really cool, with viewers and guests from literally all over the world. United States, Canada, Mexico, United Kingdom, Europe, Asia, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, wherever you're watching, we welcome you. Even Iceland. We are still waiting for viewers to chime in from the Arctic Circle and Antarctica. So if you have any family and friends and colleagues that are in the Arctic Circle or Antarctica, ring them up and say, hey, Jim Masters Show is on right now. You can have a lot of good times with the Lovities. Everybody here that's a viewer is considered a Lovity. You guys have deemed me Mr. Lovity, and that's a word that we just stumbled on. I say it every time at the beginning of the show because more and more new people are still discovering the show and sampling it and seeing what it is. We do everything. We have guests and celeb friends from television and radio and sports and movies and you name it. Hollywood, Broadway, everything. Comedy. I'm even amazed. Culinary arts, you name it. Gardening, inspiration, spirituality, whatever it is. A true talk show in its truest form, bringing back the lost art of conversation. And so many people seem to be in check with it and clicking with it. The guests saying they love it. I get all these great notes afterwards from the guests. I had a phenomenal note last night from Marlene Angelides, the wonderful singer-songwriter. An actress who was on with an amazing conversation we had, and she also performed live for us as well. We've got a very special guest live and direct from Los Angeles, California today. Wonderful actor and brilliant photographer too, HeathCalvert. He's going to join me in just a second, and he's been in films and Broadway, you name it, and he's really a cool guy, and we're so excited to have him here, and we appreciate his time. He has he's got a daughter at home, 6-year-old, and a wonderful family. And he's in a beautiful sort of like hammock-like chair as he's swinging around that he built. It's pretty cool. You'll see it in just a second. But we want to welcome all of you. We toast all of you. Thanks for joining us here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Keep spreading the word. Keep telling everybody. Spread the love over at the YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV. Subscribe to the channel. Right now we're streaming worldwide on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and Twitch at Jim Masters TV with the Jim Masters Show Live. And again, really cool stuff. Amazing guests coming up throughout the weekend and just about every day. Let's check in with some of our Lovities, our viewers and Lovities from around the world as we continue to welcome all of you. Lots of new folks all the time and regulars, which is great. Good evening, Jim and Lovities from North Carolina. Yes, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Absolutely. That's at Jim Masters TV. We would love that. We welcome actor and photographer HeathCalvert to the show tonight. Looking forward to this interesting conversation. It's going to be really, really cool. Wait till you see the chair he's in. He's swinging back and forth. It's really cool. I'm going to have to get one of those. I don't know where we're going to fit it in here. I mean, with all the things we have, I mean, we've got Gilligan, that Dream of Denver, Bob Denver's wife sent me when she was a guest on the show. We've got the George Burns, the Genie. We've got all these cast characters here. We'll have to find room maybe for like a hammock swing in the middle of the house. It's really cool. It's good to see you, Christine. We welcome you. Willie in Holland. Willie, I got a very special envelope in the mail today from you. We're going to open that this weekend and I'll share it. Thank you for sending that. I think it's in relation to my birthday, which was last week. Cheers to you. You're watching on YouTube there in Holland, in the Netherlands. Great to have you with us, Willie. Renee watching in Iowa. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, Renee, as well. Merlin in Canada and Ontario. Good to see everybody. And good to see you as well, Merlin, in Canada. We love having you here. Jennifer Barry's dancing. She always loves that catchy intro that we have on the show in the beginning, the open and close. So she's always dancing in her living room. She's always zen. Good to see you in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Mary Bishop is here as well. Good to see you, Mary. Welcome. Kathy Short. Hello, Jim and Lovely family. Happy Thursday from Cleveland, Ohio. Good to see you as well. Wichita, Kansas, reporting for duty. Hi, Jim and all our lovelies. That's Marilyn in Wichita. Claudia is here as well. Hello again, everyone. Jim, I love the countdown music. It's catchy. That is awesome. Good to see you, Claudia. I believe you're in Missouri, right? You had said you're in Missouri. Good to see you in Missouri. From South Africa, once again, our fantastic viewer, Juanita. Hi, Jim and everyone. South Africa reporting for duty. Good to see you, Juanita. And thanks for that beautiful note you sent today. I appreciate that. Hello, Jim and Lovedies. Ann Wozniak is here watching on the YouTube channel. That's right. Start watching the YouTube channel, folks, especially when we have singers and musicians, because, again, Facebook is not really going to be allowing music on Facebook, live streaming and all of that starting today. So all of our shows are on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. But when we have singers and musicians, and there's going to be a lot of music, we're going to do that exclusively on YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch, all at Jim Masters TV. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you can also comment on the YouTube channel as we're live, too. Hello, Jim and all the lovedies. Awesome. Good to see you here as well. Karen Campbell Green. Hey, Jim, do tell. What's in your glass? I know, it looks very fancy, right? Well, first, this glass, and you can see their light reflections, huh? It's hard to see, but there is a New York Mets logo right there in the center. This came from one of our viewers, dear friend as well, Kathleen Walker in New York City. She knows I'm a longtime New York Mets fan. Not this year. They're out of it. But, you know, I grew up in New York on Long Island. And so she gave us this. And in it, it looks like something really, really fancy schmancy, right? You know what it is? It's Trader Joe's organic pink lemonade. That's what's in it. I've been getting so much stuff from Trader Joe's lately. I think I need to have them as a sponsor for this show. I mean, we have vanilla fudge chip ice cream in the freezer that magically appeared. I don't know how that happened. But that's what's in here is some pink lemonade. Good to see you, Karen Campbell Green. Our dear friend June Rachel Sinaspa in New York City watching on YouTube. Good to see you, my friend June. Happy first day of October. That's right, Claudia. Tom VC is here. Hey, Jim, great job. Keep it up. Thank you. Watching in Connecticut. He and I go way back. We did a lot of PBS auctions on public television for years. I hosted those. I still work with public television as well. But these were fun, like live auctions they used to do with gift certificates and trips. And we used to give away Audis and all kinds of cool things. Good to see you, Tom. Thanks for tuning in. And Gil Gerard, who played Buck Rogers. Oh, that's cool. I always get, I always get Kyle MacLachlan. I think it's the English-Irish thing. A lot of people say there's a resemblance to Kyle MacLachlan. Desperate Housewives, Sex and the City, Twin Peaks back in the 80s. I've seen the resemblance a little bit, some of their profile. Everyone is in for a great night. Heath is awesome. Absolutely. Kathleen Walker, who gave me this wonderful New York Mets wine glass as a gift for the birthday last week. Hello to you, Kathleen. Marianne Kelly in New Jersey is here. Thanks, Marianne. Good to have you with us. Welcome to the show. And really, really love that. And Ernestine is here from North Carolina. Good to see you as well. Yeah, awesome. Pink lemonade, yum. Nice and refreshing, really, really good. And agua for you, Christine Fairwood in Connecticut. Good to see everybody. Thanks for joining us, and more new viewers come in, as the show goes on and different people check it out, and I think that is fantastic. Thanks for all the great comments. Thanks for all the love and light and everything that you guys have been truly sharing with this show. Great guest tonight. Again, HeathCalvert. He is there in Los Angeles. Let me tell you just a little bit about him. I'm sure you're very familiar with his incredible body of work. He was born in Ohio, but his childhood involved Connecticut, Maryland, Pennsylvania, high school in North Carolina and Mississippi, college in Indiana, 12 years in New York, now in Los Angeles. So he's really discovered the country and lived in several parts of it. His Broadway debut was in Good Vibrations, the Beach Boys musical. Other Broadway, he was in Hair and Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson and several other performances, symphony concerts around the United States and Canada as well. 60s music on painkillers and muscle relaxers before spine surgery. Dream sequenced out on Guiding Light. Yes, the soap opera. Sketch on Inside with Amy Schumer as well. Also, he's done a trip to the remote Amazon, which I think is really, really cool. We could talk about that. He did a writing about Ron Paul for the Huffington Post during the 2012 election, and it ended up on the front of the campaign website as well. He's an actor, he's a parent to a 6-year-old daughter, and we're really excited to have him here on the show to talk about what he's working on, some of the things he's done, how he got involved in acting and phenomenal photography as well, and how he's loving life during this crazy year of 2020. Let's welcome my great guest from Los Angeles in the swinging hammock in his living room, HeathCalvert. Hey, Heath, how are you today?
Hey, Jim, thanks for having me.
That is cool. I love that. So you were telling me before we went live that you actually constructed that in your living room, right? Tell us about that. It's cool.
I did. They with the shutdown, all of the kids' playgrounds were shut down, so my daughter didn't have anywhere to swing. So if anyone who has kids knows that you need to burn the energy. So
yes.
I just put some little
there it is,
swing set things up in the beams, and I've hid them from my landlords. I figure at least until the parks reopen.
We're gonna show everybody. We're gonna show everybody a wide shot so they can get a real good look of it.
There you go. I put those in with hand because I didn't have the right tool for it, and my daughter was asking me why I was doing it so slowly.
That is, Daddy, want to get in there? I want to swing.
Daddy, hurry up.
Now it's cool too because it swivels around so you can see other parts of the living room. You got the television as well. Yeah, let's take a look.
This is LA living via New York design, which is your room needs to be able to do every single thing that you need to do. Especially now as a theater performer, everything's been kind of taking place in our living room.
Exactly. You're getting lots of now. A couple of things with this show. Everybody that's a viewer calls themselves Lovities. So they are going to give you lots of lovity by welcoming you, and now they're going to induct you into the Lovity Hall of Fame, which is what we do here on the show. So you are now a Lovity.
I love it.
Yeah. Hi, Heath. Welcome to the show from Juanita in South Africa watching, which is amazing. Yeah. Anne is watching. Welcome, Heath. Very good dad by doing that for your daughter. And Jennifer Barry, I forgot about my hammock. He's setting it up tomorrow, so you got a hammock thing going here.
Yeah.
Welcome, Heath. Love your swing. That's from Maryland. She is in Wichita, Kansas. Ernestine in North Carolina. Hello, Heath. Welcome. Christine, also in North Carolina. Welcome, Heath, to Lovity Hall. You are now officially one of the Lovities here. That's really cool.
This is great. This is like Peloton, but it's way more comfortable.
Way more, yeah, and less expensive. Hoi Heath, welcome to the show from Willie in the Netherlands, in Holland, watching live right now. Mary Bishop welcomes you as well. This is, Renee in Iowa welcomes you. Kathleen in New York City welcomes you. Claudia in Missouri welcomes you.
I don't know that name.
Yeah, this is cool stuff, isn't it? You get a lot of welcomes and a lot of love here. And Jennifer Barry says, hey, Heath, Jen is Zen. Christine Fairwood. Hi, Heath. She's in Connecticut. She welcomes you as well. So, officially welcomed by just some of the Lovities here watching from around the world. South Africa, Holland, Canada, U.S. So tell us, How have you been dealing with all the craziness that's been happening? You're there in Los Angeles. California's had a really interesting year in many respects with so many things. Uh, Tom Vishy, who's in Connecticut, says, Heath, the hammock is da bomb. He loves it.
Thanks, Tom.
You might have to, maybe you have to market
You know what
those.
else you can do with it? It's also I also have the neck hammock. Anything can attach to that once you do it. It's a neck hammock, it's a hammock, it's a chair, it's a swing, it's a pull-up thing.
I don't know. Somehow
You
I
know.
think I see on QVC for Christmas Heath hammocks for sale.
Yep.
You
Hey,
never,
I'm
yeah,
starting. I'm starting up the website.
that's
Coming up with
right.
products.
The Double H Productions,
Yup.
exactly. So how's it been going? I mean, obviously, like me, you feed off the energy of other people. You like being out there. You're a theater person. You're an actor. You're a great photographer as well.
Thank you.
How have you been getting through all of this? Obviously, having a 6-year-old child is a blessing, having your
Yep.
family, loved ones. But what have you been doing to be creative and to get through this, especially there in the LA area?
Oh man. Um, it's really like I've heard a lot of friends describe it kind of like a wave, you know. And it is someone who's been in the arts, and having moved around a lot as a kid based off of, what's going on with parents' jobs. I think that the existential crisis that's hitting a lot of people for the first time has already been kind of inset in my DNA from the
Right,
outset. So I don't
right.
think the panic of, I mean, as an actor, you're like, will I ever work again when you do a show? So, coming on your show talking about theater, usually the fear that every theater actor has, and what I would have whenever I would go hang out with other theater actors, which is like, well, what are you working on? And now it's
Yeah,
kind of like the great equalizer where it's,
it
what
really
tools
is.
do you have? What do you have in your toolbox, that allows you to create from home? And some of the really cool things that are happening, I actually just did a workshop of a new musical. I had to sign an NDA. You have to sign an NDA to do everything now, but you'll
Hmm.
you'll see it coming out in the next couple of weeks. It's like kind of a in the Me Too vein. You will see a show coming out where they taught us how to do the sound mixing, but they zoomed in, audio engineers to record us, so we would have to do our own video and edit in. So like the first kind of attempts at a high tech,
Virtual situation, right?
virtual workshop of the new show and how do we move forward with that, which I thought was really cool. But also just you have to use your right and your left brain. It's like I'm sitting there being the engineer and going
Yeah,
boop
I
boop
know how
boop
that is.
act.
Right, right,
Yep.
exactly. You're doing it all, the technical and everything.
Hmm.
Well, usually, we're used to having a lot of other people who are specialists in each thing. This guy does this, she does this, and now you're pretty much doing it all. Even with auditions too, the self-taping is becoming really huge now too. Everybody doing self-taping, and a lot of people are still learning how
Hmm.
to do all that. But so you've been adapting to the technology and to this whole thing, or you still, I mean, a number of people I've talked to, especially in the performance area, they've said, I like all that, but I really miss seeing people. I miss hearing their voices and seeing them right in front of me, and the hugging and the meets and greets and all those extra things, the roar of the crowd and all that, that several of the ones I've interviewed lately, singers, actors, performers, musicians, they've been saying that, okay, it's been 6 months now and we've been going through it, but now I'm really getting sort of frustrated and stuck, and when is this ending and all of that, because they're really missing that energy that they feed off of, that they give back. Is it the same for you too? Are you really missing, even though we have all this great stuff, something is still missing from
I would
it?
say um, this goes to my little blurb about going to the remote Amazon. Where your mind is, and living in somewhere like New York City, and especially doing something like theater or the arts. Coming to New York the way that I did is, if I feel like if I'm sitting still, that nothing is happening, and I don't think that I think the chaos that's happening in the external world is also happening in the internal world, and sometimes that manifests itself as I can't sit by myself in a room quietly
Right,
without losing my mind.
right.
So my experience sitting in the jungle, was just like, you can't, you're not checking your bank accounts, you're not checking your bills, you can't check your email, you're just watching the sun move. And so that's kind of where my photographer light, being awareness of light really kicked in, where there was nothing to do but kind of accept that this is what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what sort of process do I build out of it? And you took all of your skill sets, to do a nightly show. And that's, the workload of that is crazy. And you make it seem easy, but there's so much that goes into organizing and doing that, aside from, hitting, a link.
I should be smoking lots of pot and hitting the bottle, right?
Come to California
to do this show nightly like this. Everybody's
those are
like,
all essential businesses.
Even the family and friends are like, "What, nightly? Come on, really?" And still,
but once you figure out a process,
right, and balancing it with the professional work too, and then that's always the cool part. It sounds like your trip to the Amazon has a lot of similar nature and form to it. When I ended up by accident driving alone after a TV shoot we did in Nevada and Pahrump, hour west of Vegas, and the crew went back to LA and everybody was dispersing after the TV shoot and the interview I did of this renowned oil painter. And my flight back east wasn't until the morning, and I took the rental car driving through. I'm very visual. I like to really dig my teeth into little areas and nooks and crannies, and not just go to all the tourist spots. And I ended up driving alone in this rental car without supplies and without anybody even knowing through Death Valley in August, about a year and a half ago. And all the things that happened during that, and the being self-aware and self-reliant and in touch without the friends and family to share the experience with, and without the skyscrapers or the suburban lawns and the forests and the ocean and all these different things, just the raw earth and driving through it and seeing raw nature was really extraordinary and really life-changing. I imagine for you, being in a situation like that in the Amazon had a lot of life-changing elements to it, huh?
Yeah. Definitely. And last summer, a group of buddies and we climbed Mount Whitney, which was the highest mountain in the contiguous United States. And that was, it was funny seeing people climbing it in a day would have 15-pound backpacks, but we were bright and we planned an entire week. So we had 50-pound backpacks. And I had people saying, this is going to be a life-changing trip. And I was like, yeah. It was one of those things where you start at midnight in the dark, and then you're, by dawn, you haven't even begun, really to climb. So it's like one of those, you have to learn. I didn't really understand why people would do things like ultra marathons, but there's a you beyond the you that you're comfortable with pushing. Right. It's like when you're saying driving through Death Valley, there's that experience that I didn't really appreciate the desert. It seemed boring until I spent some time at Joshua Tree, or up towards Death Valley, or stopping in at Manzanar, where it's just kind of like the climate is unforgiving in a way that it doesn't care about who you are, and there's something remarkable about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
From being artistically sensitive, but also a person reconnecting with how small and really fragile you are.
And the risk of it too, being alone, and there's really no rescue or lifeline there at all.
Yeah.
Unplanned.
Don't do that again.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of those things. Yeah. Like I would say New Year's Eve, Times Square, in way back a few years ago or several years ago, we did it. That you just talk about doing, unless you're Ryan and you're hosting it, Seacrest, and you're hosting it from way above, looking out at everything. But if you're in the thick of it,
I've never had any desire. We did it. There was a time when all the trains from Long Island going into the city were free, because they didn't want people drinking and driving. So all the Metro North Railroad, everything from Westchester and Connecticut, and all the railroad trips were free to encourage people not to drink and drive, which was a great idea. So a group of us went in. It was terrific, but you're packed. The crowd is swaying constantly. People are falling. And then once the ball drops, which you can't even really see,
it's like every man for himself. There's people just go running and it becomes chaotic, and because they had been drinking for a while. So it's like you do it once and then you live to tell. And then you
Is
watch
it
it at
weird that
home.
yeah, no. I was like, is it weird that I'm a theater performer who doesn't like being in crowds?
Not necessarily.
I don't like being in crowds. I feel very vulnerable. I feel, and especially now having a daughter, I have like it's a
Yeah.
different intuitive sense of my surroundings than if I'm by myself.
Yeah. I had a friend, he's no longer with us, unfortunately, but there was actually a name for what he had, but he had a fear of actual crowds. Even going to the shopping mall, with his mother and father, just the people and so many people on top and everything, he really couldn't do it. He would panic. He just really. My sister has a friend who's in his 40s who is married with children, and something happened recently, like last year, whenever he's in the car, if he's driving and they're approaching a bridge of any kind, he totally loses it. He panics, he cries, and he screams, and he can't drive over a bridge. He thinks it's going to collapse. He thinks it's the end of the
You
earth.
must have had an experience.
So his wife has to switch, and then he has to come down and not, close his eyes. And are we over the bridge yet? We over the bridge yet? But my other friend was somebody who had problem with crowds, just being everybody on top. Stadiums bothered him. Concerts. He wanted to go to them, but he would have trouble with that. No, there's a lot of. It's funny because a lot of people being in the public eye, they always think that means you're going to every party, every gala event, every celebration, everything 24/7, and some people do that and they love doing that, and you do it when you have to. I do it when I have to. Can enjoy it, but there's times when I really, I like a good Sunday when it's raining and
Mm.
you don't have anywhere to be and the phone's not ringing and people aren't knocking on the door and you don't have emails to respond to and there's no responsibility and it's quiet. You're watching old TV shows, movies, or whatever you're doing with the family, you're just relaxing, you're in your pajamas and you're just chilling out, and you don't have to be somewhere and you don't have to be out entertaining and doing the usual.
Yeah.
You find that the same?
Oh, that's my favorite. Even when I lived in New York, I might live in the fifth floor walk up. It felt like a tower, and if I needed it to feel the energy of people, would go down to the street and go run errands. But
Yeah.
I felt the need to withdraw up into quiet, just to be able to decompress.
So would you say you're extroverted or introverted, or are you an
It's a strange
extroverted
combination. It's a
introvert?
strange combination of both because
Love both.
my mom getting into music. My mom was the church piano player and the piano player for the kids choir. So that I was forced to do music, and then also just I was very aware of theatricality from a young age, like watching church. Like I would be able to call the cues because one of the churches was very fire and brimstone, so I'll be able to call like fire and brimstone, and then he would soften, and then the lights would change, and the music would come on, and then he would tear up. Being able to do that. So
Yes, to be able to be,
it's a
yeah.
strange. In moving around so much, I felt like I was more of an observer than a
That's interesting. Yeah, me too.
participant. So even with like a
Yeah,
lot of the
yeah,
things
yeah.
in my early career, I think I felt kind of. It's weird being an outgoing kid and then going through like some extreme bullying because then you're just an amalgam of all these different things. So
Is that
I
what
was nervous
happened?
talking.
You had
Yeah,
bullying
I'm
happen
nervous.
too?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, just like
yeah.
the changing with parents' jobs and schools, and I went in from this little Christian school, country school, I was in a small town to going to a working class middle school in sixth and seventh grade after homeschooling. I'm looking up, the F word in the dictionary.
And it wasn't fantastic.
And it
Oh,
was not
fabulous.
fantastic. Yep.
And you moved around a lot, right? Too. I mentioned the different
I did. I did.
Connecticut, Maryland, these different places.
Northeast, and my parents from Indianapolis and Pittsburgh, and that's just kind of how my dad's job was, in the 80s. Big companies were starting to buy up little companies, and
Yeah,
One of them was Romney's Bain Capital bought one of my dad's companies and just, sold it for parts. And
I
so
worked
it's,
for a Clear Channel station in Bain Capital. I was fine because the show I was hosting, which now is iHeartRadio, and I hosted and produced a pretty successful show there for about 18 years. But during the time that I was doing that show on iHeartRadio, which is really Clear Channel,
mhm.
uh, there was this Bain Capital had come in, and there was this partnership between Bain and Clear Channel, and I think the stock market went down or something. This is probably 2008ish when the stock market went. Shh, Bain
Yep,
Capital said to Clear Channel, "You need to cut employees." So that's the day they
yep.
cut
We're going to borrow
2,000
$300
people.
million dollars
Yeah, and
and
you're
give
going to
ourselves
cut
a 10% borrowing fee.
and we're going to cut 2,000
Yeah.
announcers and DJs and
Yep.
salespeople and promotion people. We were good. Our show wasn't affected, and we were fine. But there were people that I worked with and people that I knew that day, across the country and beyond. That was their last day, and there was that.
That
Yeah,
was something else that I got to blog about for the Huffington Post was the just the little financial crisis thing in there. I was making some jabs, and then that article just disappeared.
they
I was like,
those
oh,
those employees unfortunately became the bane of existence. That's
yeah,
what ended up
yeah,
happening. But
uh-huh.
so let's go back in time. So when you were a kid,
Hmm.
were you a quiet kid, or were you sort of rambunctious and entertaining and bouncing
I
around a
was
lot
pretty.
and had a lot of energy and wanted to perform
I
school
remember I
plays?
one of I think in remembering your childhood, it's always kind of like looking back in the mist. It's like it builds up Phantom of the Opera moments in my mind. But I remember one of my classmates in kindergarten saying to me, "I would like you if you weren't trying to be funny all the time."
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm not
Yeah,
trying to be funny.
I just
You
am.
know, I just
Yeah,
sometimes I'm just uncomfortable.
yeah,
Just
and
no, but it
the humor covers for it, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a survival mechanism. It's like I always
yeah,
when I started going to a therapist, I knew if he started suggesting that I look at doing stand-up comedy that things were really bad.
yeah. You wanted to go out there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
You shouldn't be laughing.
it is a exactly. It is a it's an icebreaker too. I mean, I use it without even realizing that I use it. I'm always looking for the line. I'm always looking not for the joke, but I'm always looking for the thing that threads things together to make it humorous. So when I come into a crowd or I walk into a studio or whatever, and there's tempers flying and blood pressures are up and everybody's sort of like, and I'll come in calm, cool, and collected, and maybe I'll say something really quick-witted or something with a little New York-ish to it, and all of a sudden everybody's like laughing, and the ice is melting, and all of a sudden people are, and I'm doing that for two reasons: to make them laugh and to get them to relax and chill out, but also because I don't want the chaos and be involved in this the throes
Yep.
of fisticuffs and all that. So I
And
use the
there's the other
humor.
alternative New York method. The alternative New York method is the language I can't use on your show.
That's usually on the
So there's
state.
another stronger New York method. I'm always like,
They,
you would get away
they,
with that in New York.
those are those subway sounds.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Get out of
That's
here.
it. That's it. It's funny. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of like Donnie Marie, a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, because of my father's side, New York, my mother's side, Connecticut, Massachusetts. So we always had the sensibilities of sort of the New England feel, and then the New York vibe as well. And but for you, growing up, initially in the Midwest, how did the Midwest influence who you are, if it did at all, in your sensibilities and the things that you believe in, and or would you just throw that out the window and say, "Hey, I'm
No, I
Heath,
would
I'm doing
say
me thing."
no. Definitely informed by your environment, and I mean the cool thing about living in so many places is I really do see the United States as way more tribal than I think people really understand. The differences between Massachusetts and Connecticut or New Hampshire and Vermont, Maryland, Pennsylvania. Living in North Carolina was very different from Mississippi.
Yeah,
Or California, New York. So it's in some places the differences are more readily apparent, than others. But I think coming from the Midwest and just both of my sets of grandparents came from out of the Great Depression, World War II vets. It's just kind of, you can play, but don't complain if you get hurt, sort of
Yes.
a sort of a
Yeah.
thing. So it's kind of strange, coming to performing, and especially theater, the odds are not in your favor to have lavish career. I think that there's a resilience at play, with attrition, and there's a lot of different factors that come into it. And it's such a strange career, and I'm and having this time down, thinking about it, looking back, and becoming a parent and seeing my daughter thrive, like coming into, like, you've created your show. It's like, what are the skill sets that I have? Because I've spent most of my life trying to please other people or be accepted or get a part or do these things. And now none of that exists. What am I creating for myself? I think a lot of that is a painful process, but I think especially lately, and having my daughter be the same age as me, is when I became aware of, food insecurity or financial insecurity or things like that,
But
to be
also,
able.
too, you're probably also saying, which a lot of people are doing after what you just said, because I have always been the caretaker type, the people pleaser, running to the fire. We've had conversations actually with guests about this. It took me a long time, many years, to realize when you're on an airplane and they tell you when the mask drops, put it on yourself first before you
Hmm.
help the person next to you. I was always raised and of the belief that that's selfish. That's greedy. Put the mask on. Grab the mask and just grab it on me first. No, no, I want to help her or him. Make sure that they
Yeah.
have it first, then put it on me. But now I realize, and it took a long time, and it still bothers me a little if I'm on a plane when I hear it, like 10%, like, ugh. But you got to put it on yourself first. So the people pleaser, the caretaker, making sure everybody has what they need, and yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes, and okay, you as well, Heath. So this is a time too when you're probably assessing yourself. What are some of the, I've done a lot of things in my life that are pleasing other people and that are taking care of other people. What does Heath want? What fulfills Heath? What really brings joy to Heath's life? You have your family, of course, but in terms of just some of the things that bring you into this self awareness, which I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are experiencing right now, which is a very good thing. I experienced it driving alone through Death Valley. Are you looking at Heath and saying, you know what? What do I want? What makes me happy?
Yeah, and the funny thing is there's a lot of fear in that, because a lot of some of it is stuff that I don't want to do because it feels uncomfortable. Which goes back to childhood and when I started performing. When I switched from being this gregarious, outgoing, kid, performing in church, to there. I remember I ran for class treasurer because I was pretty decent at math. So I was going to this public school and I had my speech ready, and all I really did was expose myself. Like, I really just realized, like, I jumped in front of an evil army and went, "Hey, look at me," you know. And it's funny, as an adult, I can have that feeling, when you're writing your own content, or doing things like that. So now I think, especially in this, I've geared up and I've got some buddies, with equipment in LA, and we're all sitting around board, I've written some stuff and gotten some Instagram handles and my website rolling, and turning some hobby crafts into, you know hopefully
Things, yeah,
more, but just not feeling like I'm like any time is wasted, really, in
right.
this, you know.
So, do you think that I actually asked somebody, the guest we had last night. She's a rocker, uh, and her family very, very strong-willed and sort of very maybe set in their ways. And she's from originally from Europe. And one of the questions I asked her is, do you think you went into, because she's theatrically, classically trained in England and as an actress and Shakespeare and fabulous, singing performance. But she went in, she's part of a couple of cool rock bands, cover bands. And I said, do you think you went into rock at all because it has the rebellious nature, because it's the opposite almost of sort of the control and maybe the perfectionism that especially her father, her Greek father in Greece, sort of wanted? And she says, you know, I never really thought about it that way, but I think so. I think, you know, I'm so classically trained, and you know, and I won Eurovision contests, and I was in a placed in a pop group. You know, like when you win American Idol, you now have to be you sign a contract, and you're now in a group or whatever. She was in that, and she said it didn't represent her at all because she had a certain thing that she wanted to pursue. Do you think following your passions of acting and performance and being out there is like a therapy? It helps you if you're sort of quieter generally. It helps bring you out more than maybe you would express if you weren't on stage or weren't in
Oh,
performances.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's strangely, and you've probably experienced this, I'll use a new age term, channeling.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah.
just like tapping into something that you wouldn't even be able to consciously express.
Right. It's just something that washes over you as it's happening, and it's really
Hmm.
cool. So, how did you as a kid, I mean, what were some of the things, the steps you took to pursue your career? Were you in plays as a kid? What were some of
Oh
those
man.
things that got that trajectory going for Heath?
So my mom made when I moved to North Carolina, for freshman year of high school. I was also younger than everyone by a good bit. I was 16 my senior year of high school, auditioning for college. So I'm trying to think, I was probably like 11 or 12 my freshman year of high school. And I learned that. Can you still see me?
Oh yeah, we see all of you
There you are.
now.
There you go.
I'm a very generous host. We like to give our guests
Full
wide
screen.
full screen
Well, too
too.
much meat.
Yeah.
Too much
Yeah.
meat.
You know, a lot of people say that. That is
I
funny.
like a little bit of the brick wall.
Yeah, like it's
That's
kind of
a
cool,
I like
right?
that. I just that wallpaper in my room.
Another brick on the wall.
Yeah. No, I learned that instead of gym class was the nightmare class in junior high. And I learned that instead of doing gym class, I could be in choir. And
Yeah.
so I ended up auditioning for this choir. And then when we moved, my dad got a job in Mississippi. There was a show choir there that competed, around the United States, and they had won a lot and were well known. And I ended up going to see their summer musical, and they were doing Bye Bye Birdie, and I was completely terrified of doing it because I'd only ever sung hymns or choral music in front of people, and I said I want to do that. So I ended up singing, as a 13-year-old, went and sang for the head of the show choir. They had already done the auditions for the year, and he added a spot and put me in.
Now, did your
And from
family
there,
support that? Were they supportive
they
with that
did. They
choice? Yeah.
did. They were. I'm really lucky in that my dad was kind of like Jim, and my mom was very supportive as well. In fact, forcing me into music before I knew that I liked it. But it wasn't. That's also part of the sleep. I think she kind of pushed me towards the theater lifestyle too, because she only practiced at night. She would practice her piano for church the next morning at about 3 in the morning. So I'd always be leaning over the pews in front of me, half kind of falling asleep. I think it was just an escape and a way to be able to be seen, as myself and not be picked on as much. And in Mississippi, strangely enough, we found this really amazing high school in Mississippi with Dave Fair is the name of the conductor there, who's just done an amazing job. I think they lost two contests in like 20 years. I think we came in second my first year. Lance Bass from NSYNC
That's
was
fast. Yeah.
was in it, and Disney people would come, but I didn't have, I didn't have, my boy band moment. I wasn't one of the strong dancers in that group, which was funny leading up because my this one of the last projects I was working on. They're going back to work on the script. It didn't happen, but a Broadway version of Magic Mike. So I was finally gonna get to call myself a dancer.
That's
I
it.
was really I was really proud of myself of making it through the movement screening of that one.
So theater really spoke to you early then, Heath. You really loved theater.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
in high school and kind of knew that that's the direction that I wanted to go. And I mean, initially I thought it was more classical music because I didn't really think of myself as being cool enough to kind of do. I think the first musical I saw a touring production of Miss Saigon, And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah,
singing with
yeah.
helicopters. That was,
Pretty cool.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. That's it. So, what would you say for you was one of the first big breaks for you in the career, in the pursuits?
Oh God, I haven't had it yet.
You know, you're
I
not.
can't.
They all say that. They all. I've talked to people who've been on everything and have done everything, and they're still like, "There's more. I'm not done. There's more." Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening. I was lucky enough to hear Anthony Hopkins speak somewhere, and he was saying, I still feel like a fraud, and I was like, okay,
You
all
know, that's
right,
funny. There's several people who I've chatted with lately who have said the same thing. Marlene Angelides, who was the singer yesterday that was on, she was placed in that pop group after she was in the Eurovision contest. Pop group that was very popular in Greece. I mean, they were number one everywhere, selling out everywhere they went, records. But she felt like a fraud because it wasn't who she
yeah.
was. That wasn't the training she had. That wasn't her interest. And she did eventually, break away and move on. But so,
It's
oh,
strange when you do something like that, or doing like music theater. I think sometimes I don't know how I would sing a song because it's always through a character. I did
yes.
was rehearsing one show, and the composer said to the music director, was like, "Can he sing this?" And the music
And,
director was like,
and
"He's acting. Like, Heath, can you?"
now,
Yeah.
do you like acting because you're able to play other characters versus yourself?
Um, it depends on the show sometimes, but I'm definitely more. I think I'm more comfortable playing other people.
Playing other people, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
So, as you're going along, what would you say then probably was the situation or the production or the opportunity or the person you came across that opened the door for you to then be able to pursue it in the way that you have? Was there that production, that opportunity, that gig, something
It
happened
doesn't.
where, wow, that was probably the pivotal moment for me when things slowly started rolling because I got that thing then.
It feels like a series of nudges, And I think maybe when people say that they haven't had their break yet, it more feels like you're kind of like bumped, cosmically forward. I've had people, whether it's somebody giving you a compliment that you feed off for 3 months when it's like when you show up in New York. My first audition was for Susan Stroman, and it was supposed to be a pre-screen. And I went in, I was just expecting, a casting assistant, not crazy stakes. And Susan Stroman comes up with a ball cap, and I was like, ah. My first audition, I had to start both songs over. And she's like, "How long have you been in New York?" And she was very kind, and she's like, "You're gonna do great." To doing, a pandemic reading that she's directing. It's kind of like you don't know. You could be having the worst time of your life, and one little thing, pops in, and
And you've had those things happen.
those things shamanically coexist. I mean, that's the thing. You're sitting in a shamanic ceremony in the middle of the jungle. Somebody next to you is going through the worst moment of their life, and the person next to them is in some transcendent experience. It's all kind of, you
How
learn
did
to
the,
appreciate.
yeah, well, it's just very important because not a lot of
Mhm.
people do. A lot of people, go through these careers, especially in entertainment, things of that nature, where they don't really appreciate the people around them. They don't
Mhm.
appreciate what it takes. They don't appreciate, the person that's the grip or the one
Mhm.
that's, hanging the lighting or whatever it is. I've always appreciated everybody and I've always tried to learn every aspect of everything because there's been
Mhm.
times when I've been thrown out there, the other person was ill or the other person wasn't capable and they threw me out there to do something, just make magic happen. And those are cool times. I love when it's like that because I love live television, live radio, live stage. So knowing and appreciating a little bit of what everybody's doing is
Mhm.
really important because it takes a team to make everything so smooth and effortless and good. It's like you said in the beginning, all the work that goes into these things, the viewers, the listeners, the audiences, sometimes don't realize the blood, sweat, and tears, toil, sacrifice that go into these choices as far as
Yeah.
careers, but also into making art, music, production, whatever it is, seem so effortless, fun, and smooth. That's why everybody always says, "Oh, I can do that." and then when they try,
Hmm.
so it's a little more difficult than there's a lot more moving parts and people involved that you have to work with and deal with and connect with and all of that that make it happen. And you learn all of that. We are trained to make things look
Hmm.
uh, easier than they really are.
It's like the little blurb. I was like, I had my spine surgery at 31. It's like going out and doing 60s music on stage, with the symphony and just being, coming out and just like swinging and then getting off stage and, slumping into the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're doing it, sometimes you literally don't feel pain.
Right, right, right. Exactly, exactly right. You're all in when you're performing. You're in a
Hmm.
zone. Right? I know when I'm doing, even like when I do a show like this, I'm totally in my zone. I know everything that's going on around me. I'm listening, and it's like a sport to me. It's like a sport. It looks smooth and easy, but I'm like totally aware of every little thing that's happening. I imagine when you're on stage or maybe on a film set, whatever it may be, you're in, you're an observer, like you said early. You were always an observer, soaking it in, watching what people are doing, how they're reacting, how they're acting towards each other. And I think when you're an observer, you soak it all in, and you're able to really then take those observations and apply it to what you're doing to try to make things a little bit easier, huh?
Yeah, it's like what you were saying earlier. You can go into a room or a space and learn how to connect.
Yeah. Exactly, right. I'm always looking, it's interesting, when you observe yourself or analyze yourself, I think I'm always looking for ways to connect, which is interesting. The reason why the Death Valley thing was so big is because I'm very communal. So I love when we're all in a movie theater and we're all watching the Titanic, and the Titanic is sinking, that feeling that we're all feeling at the same time, which washes over everybody. There's something about that I think is really cool
It's
and really
spiritual.
connecting. Right, and I love that kind of stuff. Christmas Day when the family's together and the music and the food and the love and just every sense is heightened. There's something about all of that communal camaraderie that I'm used to.
Yeah.
Death Valley offered none of that. It was me and Death Valley, and that was it. So that's why I think for me
It's like
that was such a
sensory deprivation. Have you ever done a sensory deprivation tank?
no, no, no. But it felt very much like that, exactly. Because
Yeah.
for me, my go-to place is the ocean because I grew up on the coast. So when I go to the ocean, it's like just listening to it, watching it. It's the sun setting. I'm swimming it, surfing, kiteboarding it, boogie boarding, whatever it is. I'm really in tune with the ocean, the rhythm, the tide. I love watching videos of those surfers that go on those 50-foot waves or whatever.
Oh,
It's just, God bless those guys and gals. Um, just the power of it all. Death Valley had none of that. There was no zen. It was just go through there. Just you got to survive this. You got to survive
uh,
this. There's no phone a friend
yeah.
because you're in the
It's like
middle
the
of.
ultra runners will run that in the summer. We'll run crazy races in
God
that
bless
heat.
those people. Yeah, God bless. That's amazing. So tell us about again. You've hair. I mean, all these great projects and productions. Tell us about New York. When you came to New York and things started happening in New York for you, how did that happen?
I went to college in Indiana University, and it was the first year that we had what they call a showcase, which is where agents come to listen to you, and they'll have a form, and they'll leave their phone number, or, if they're interested in you. And I did that showcase and had one phone number. So I did summer stock in Grand Lake, Colorado, which is right inside Rocky Mountain National Park. And I was super, super proud of myself because I had negotiated up from 200 to 250 a week. And we were paid in cash every single week. And I gave myself $40, $40, $50 for food for the week, and mailed myself. I trusted the mail, $200 every week back home to Mississippi. And I moved to New York with that cash and two suitcases at the end of that summer.
Mm,
I think one suitcase had my coffee maker and a
you
couple
need
of
you
boxes
need
of
that.
pasta. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I just found my Not for Tourist from 2003.
Really?
in my sister's garage. Yeah, this is before all the apps with the MTA. Yeah,
Yeah.
every neighborhood had like the
Yeah.
restaurants and the
Exactly. Yeah. Go here,
yeah. So
go
I
there.
moved. Yeah, I moved in 2003 and relentlessly called the one phone number and got that agent and got a reading of Good Vibrations at
Mm-hmm.
some point in the first year, and that hurried on and on to Broadway and off Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my
That's, I mean,
first experience,
that
but
was
it
a
was
gr that was an amazing opportunity.
yeah.
Were you nervous moving to New York at all? Were there any hesitation?
I think having moved so many different places and going to Indiana for school, which is a Big Ten school, and I auditioned. That was the only school that I auditioned for. And I had seen that their classical voice program was ranked the top program when I was 16, and I auditioned there, and was somehow accepted. And then, as a 17-year-old at a Big Ten school without a strict schedule for the first time in my life. And I kind of made a little bit of a mess the first 2 years before I realized that this is a microcosm of what New York's going to be. And I'm going to be responsible for showing up, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about good vibrations. That was not exactly a small little thing to be involved in. You must have been, were you pinching yourself when you were involved in that?
Yeah, it was one of those really cool situations where I couldn't believe, I was so excited just getting the reading in the first place. I was going there, I was working, I had, the waiter job, and I was going to work, after rehearsal, and the other people on the show were going to their Broadway shows, and I was like, oh my God, and these people had, like embroidered Broadway swag, on their bags. I was like, oh my God, this is it, you know and just
Mm.
seeing what worked and didn't work in that process, and making great friends, and being around so many talented people, it gave me kind of that boost to be able to go do readings and workshops for the next however.
You having a Los Angeles earthquake in there, or?
No, I should get. You should see
Or
all the technology that I was sent for this last thing. You should see how I have my tablet set up.
really? It's all
Yep,
like extremely high tech and
it's
everything,
on a
or
suitcase.
it's. I know how that is.
Yeah.
There's some really cool photos that you sent along that I want to show people here too. Um, the photography, in addition to all the work, Broadway and all the
hmm
incredible productions and things you've done as an actor, um, you've had this wonderful opportunity. Well, this one's cool. This was goes back to 2012. Tell us about this.
That was doing Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson in Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
That was
And
great. It's the only time I've ever gotten bronchitis in the summer.
how did that opportunity develop for you?
So I had initially auditioned for Bloody Bloody way back before when they were doing it at the Public, and ended up later covering Ben Walker at the Public, and then when it transferred to Broadway, ended up covering or being his understudy there. I went it on one time for each place, and so I learned the studio theater was doing this in DC, and
Yeah,
having you work on a show, and as an understudy, you never know if you're going to go on. And Ben Walker was just such a class act guy. He
yeah,
gave me, at the Broadway transfer, he gave me a shot to play it, which is really a solid
yeah.
a solid thing for a guy headlining a show to do.
Phenomenal opportunity, absolutely.
hmm
That's a really cool shot too. What were you thinking in that shot? Do you recall?
What was I thinking in that shot? God. Well, I'm an actor, so it's probably something self-conscious. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
that was such a weird. It's like thinking about the news now, and reading Andrew Jackson's biography. The same writer that wrote the Hamilton biography, Chernow, that wrote the biography that Hamilton's based off of.
Right.
It's really interesting looking at all the forces that were affecting politics then. And I've kind of been, like you read my weird Huffington Post blurb where I somehow ended up following Ron Paul for the Huffington Post for a second. It's just such a politics is such a
There it
yeah.
is. How'd
There it
that
is.
happen? Yeah.
I just randomly started I was writing helping write a buddy write a political sketch comedy at the Zipper Factory when that existed in New York, and we had
Yeah.
guests like Rachel Maddow and Mo
Mm-hmm.
Rocca on before they were, who they are now, or Amy Goodman, head of the, Iraq Afghanistan Veterans Against War.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember seeing him in the debates, say the CIA and the wars were shenanigans, and I was like, what in the world? It was just kooky doctor, and it was the beginning of kind of that Tea Party phenomenon, and I was just curious, and I ended up somehow knowing the person who had the editor's password for the Huffington Post to be able to go and follow him.
Now, what was your impression of him, having followed him and met him?
I mean, they call him Doctor No, so it was really like the government shouldn't do anything. It was like one of those weird. I think every people go through a romantic kind of Ayn Rand hero phase where they think libertarianism will work for about 6 months of their life. And now, at 40, I maybe know two guys that could make libertarianism work. It's still like, you're kind of like, oh, we need to stop all these wars. And it was interesting following him on the trail because the Dennis Kucinich, the people on the left had, came around this weird and met in this anti-war kind of thing, which is where I was, with the Iraq war. That was kind of the big thing that drew my attention to politics.
Mm-hmm.
I remember right before Bush Jr. invaded Iraq, seeing on the cover of the New York Times. That was always something in my college food budget that I really was lucky to get, was the cover of the New York Times, or get the Sunday New York Times. If I had it in room for my food budget, it was like, I think it was like $3.50 then, $3. I had the magazine. Yeah, I would get the arts reviews and read like the Broadway reviews. And seeing, a picture of this kid on the front, saying the elite Republican National Guard, and it just looked like this kid that was my age. And he didn't look elite. He just looked like a scared kid my age. And I thought, man, and that kind of drew me into so when he was saying, we need to stop these wars and that sort of thing, I think one of my friends in a performance had his stepdad grew hydroponic in a secret compartment in his barn. So I think I took a bag of that and went on the road, like thinking I was Hunter S. Thompson for 3 months to New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Yeah.
And I stopped when someone said you have strong Aryan features. I was like, no, thank you. I'm gonna go home.
Well, speaking
no
of
thanks.
Speaking of which, it's a cool shot, and there's a rainbow coming through, which was really something. Is this? Where was this? Is this?
That was a film shot. That's the Ucayali River. It's one of the headwaters to the Amazon. It's just over the Andes. We flew into Lima and then took a plane over the Andes into Pucallpa, and then took some Subaru Outbacks about 2.5 hours to these motor canoes, and took these motor canoes about 3 hours into the wilderness.
It had to be the Subaru Outbacks. It always is.
Yep. 4-wheel drive.
That's it. Absolutely.
But that was cool. That was 2 weeks, and the guy right behind me is he's a shaman. He's from Spain. He lives with the Shipibo tribe.
That is really cool. How long were you there for?
It was a really remarkable experience. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. Wow.
2 weeks.
That's cool.
I thought that I would want to stay, but I don't think I'm suited for long term. I think the last 2 nights a jaguar was circling us. There's something with being in the jungle and it's so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face.
Nothing at all.
Just listening to a jaguar get closer all night.
How about this shot here on top of the world?
That's at the top of Mount Whitney last summer. I was I'm making it look like I was cool climbing up, and I just.
And what are you holding? What's in your hand? Just the Mount Whitney.
My buddy brought a little Mount Whitney flag, 14,505 feet.
Wow.
Yep. And we started at midnight, got to the top around, I think 3 in the afternoon.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And that was just something. It wasn't part of a project or production or anything. That's something you guys just wanted to do.
Yeah,
right?
we kind of we cooked it up at the beginning of the year, and it ended up being a physical goal for me. Last February, the day before Valentine's Day, I was actually in a pretty gnarly car wreck. So it's weird when you get an injury, and having hurt my back before, when you look at the space of like a year ago, I can be. This trip had already been planned in August, and I'm thinking in February, how healthy am I going to be? So it was a really good goal for me to be able to.
Yeah. Absolutely. To achieve,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's another cool shot you sent along. Is that
Yeah,
from
that's
the
on the other
same?
side. That's on the
Yeah.
other side looking down. You see that little guitar over to the right? That's called Guitar Lake.
Oh yeah.
And it looks
Yeah.
super pretty. And we asked somebody at the top how it was, and they said it was a giant toilet, and we didn't understand until we got down there. You just
That's
imagine everyone climbing that mountain and holding it in because they give you a bag to poop.
and that's it.
Yep.
That's
You
incredible.
save it for Guitar Lake. Ugh.
There's another shot. Where was this?
That was in my dressing room for Amelie.
Okay,
I
yeah.
somehow ended up being one of the 10 hot chorus boys that season. And I was like, I'm not in the chorus and I'm not a boy, but I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah, not the chorus, not the boy, but you take the hot
Yeah. I was
part.
like, finally, finally.
Finally, on the
Yeah.
hot list.
Yeah.
That's Here's another cool shot.
Yeah. That's headed into the unknown.
Mm,
It's really so wild. You just wouldn't believe it. I mean, they were showing me two of the most poisonous snakes in the jungle had corresponding anti-venom in
mm,
plants that had the same geometric patterns as the snakes.
mm. So this is a whole other side of you that people who know you from your acting ability and some of the productions you've been in might not realize that you have a real passion for this and for photography as well. Tell us about that. How did the photography part come into play? Because that's really cool.
I've always I'm trying to think when I first. Well, I remember watching my uncle who was a sports photographer in the '80s. I had not really into sports as much, now as an adult, but like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and all those people, and it was all film photography and watching him develop it and organize it, and then you know becoming a performer, and a lot of a couple of my credits are understudying, so my thing would be, I really started enjoying taking pictures, during tech, or would give it, or behind, backstage, giving it, as gifts on opening night, and then just starting to find it as a another outlet. you know you can't, especially,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
that's what it
glad
is.
now with theater, but I ended up getting a really good camera before, for me, before Whitney. So I'm figuring, I'm not going to climb that mountain again. I want to get
Hmm.
the pictures that I get,
Yeah.
when I go up, and it, came back from that and kind of was bitten by the bug. I have another buddy who is he's an avid outdoorsman. His projects always start at 4 in the morning. It's always waking up at 4 in the morning in the dark and marching up in the, side of a mountain, pitch black, so that you can get sunrise shots.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that started to click in, and then doing Magic Mike canceled, and turned out my neighbor in West Hollywood, I've since moved, as a famous fashion photographer, like, Sports Illustrated covers, Harper's, Vogue, and all that sort of stuff. Um, and I kind of just reached the point, where, I don't know how to do this thing at all, but I really want to do it and be willing to be a fool, or be, look like a fool, or be willing to be humble and say, hey, I'll move around chords. So I was telling him, hey, can I come to set and just move around chords and stuff like that, and seeing him work with some really top talent and kind of learning
Hmm.
through osmosis, and then asking other photographers or asking designers, or wanting to do leather work. So my website that I started, I just built a gentleman's work in progress, um,
Tell us about that. Yeah,
crafting a
that's
style
cool.
for life. So I've just
Yeah.
started that. I've just
Yeah.
started this as kind of like this. The overarching theme in my life is, how do I rebuild with the skill sets that I have, and how do I reach out of my comfort zone to be able to, whether it's dealing with a life transition, I'm my I don't talk about it too much, but the beginning of this, like, my marital situation is transforming into something else,
Hmm.
and I mean, with the pandemic, it's just like so many things have happened that I feel like
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
pacing out my grief, and there's a lot of
Sure.
memento mori, you know, around. It's just kind of like anything could change any day. So
Yeah. And it
if I'm
is. Yeah.
afraid to do it, something like, I was starting to do stand-up comedy. I was getting my feet in stand-up comedy before this started. And so I'm thinking, okay, how do I write, and how do I have the, if I'm somehow going through this fear threshold of learning how to do something, like be a single dad, or we could be like, I'm learning to do woodwork. I have a buddy who is in hair with me, Bryce Rhiness, who's an amazing woodworker, just an artisan, craftsmanship, I mean, we've been building, crazy tree houses for, like, we built a tree house. I can't say who it was because he was building it secretly, but in Brentwood, like, it's not a tree house, it's a studio apartment.
It's yeah.
But having content like that, content or finding people who are like, how did you learn to do this? Like, when did you start, getting into woodworking? I have a shoe designer who makes, boots from scratch for NBA stars and movie stars, and things like that. I mean, like, hey, I want to learn how to do this, and how do I do it? So the idea of gentleman's work in progress, there's the axiom, like, it's not perfection, or it's progress, it's not perfection. So that sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's you too. You're a work in progress.
So it's me. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to do it. And I think the benefit that I'd like to come out of it, and just thinking as a kid and being in the arts and having those moments in New York, where, I just quit smoking again yesterday. I go through phases. It's so terrible, but it's like, I have a love-hate relationship with it. But just thinking of the times I was in New York City.
You're very calm today. You didn't rip the place. You didn't rip the place apart or anything.
Not yet. Don't vape. I quit vaping during Whitney, and that's not a joke. It's like way more nicotine.
Yeah.
But just finding a process for how to go through things. It's kind of like, the relationship, transition. I'm reaching out to other men and friends who have gone through these things. I went to a men's workshop,
You see yourself as a motivational speaker?
I wouldn't say that I'm a not motivational, but motivating in the sense that I'm willing to say that I don't know and I need help, and hey, I look up to this person in this particular area.
And your story could inspire others who are fearful of coming forward with their own, trials and tribulations in life, when they see somebody who's willing to express themselves, which is it could be a beautiful thing too.
Yeah. So I'm trying to grow everything in tandem. I've already written some stuff. I'm helping my buddy with my woodworking tools build a courtroom set for his little for his business in exchange for shooting my weird content, and
barter.
We're gonna have a whole weird artistic barter community popping up, and getting a screen printing machine so I can make my own t-shirts. I have a weird this is where I'm trying to turn my weird obsessions or interests. I'm trying to, like, stop feeling like I'm wasting time with them and see if other people are interested. So this is a 1940s t-shirt. So I've been obsessed with US made, t-shirts from the 1940s through now. So I'll be screen printing, random t-shirts and little wooden handicrafts, and
so do you
trying to enjoy myself out.
I was just about to say, do you think pre-pandemic, pre-economic, all this stuff we've been going through in this start of this new decade, 2020, were these things already happening in your life? Were you already starting to analyze and figure out, okay, what's making me happy? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? What are some of the choices I want to make going forward? Was there a birthday that triggered that? Life events that triggered that? Or was that also enhanced by this social distancing, more of the alone time, more of the time to think, reflect? Okay, here's what I've done so far. I'm at this age. Here are the things I've done. Is it fulfilling me? Is it getting me anywhere? Am I enjoying this? Am I spinning my wheels? And what do I want to do that makes me happy? And you just listed all these other cool projects and different things. Is this something that this pandemic and this social distancing and this downtime, this reset we're in, has sort of helped bring to the surface for you?
Definitely all of those things. It's like, even moving into my, I moved during, the curfews and the pandemic. So it's like, no, I've had this strange sense of the cavalry is not coming, which sounds dark, like that, but it feels like being in this pressure cooker where
it's constant and it's
constant. It's like, of course, it's like, aside from, the change in the status of my relationship, it's like one of our dogs died, and then my wallet was stolen, and then, the brakes go out in the car, and then your dad's in the hospital, and then a friend dies, and then, it's kind of like you're pacing out your it's pacing out a grief where I almost don't feel like there is time to catch up with reacting to it in a way other than being by myself in the way that this has all happened. So there's this strange feeling of everything that's happening is incredibly tumultuous for everyone, but in the same respect, I feel like I'm being given the opportunity to reassess in a bit of a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Like these factors of things that I don't necessarily understand if I enjoy them or not don't exist. So what do I have to put out into a brush fire has swept through my life, and I'm going,
Right, right, right.
this still works, this still works, this still
Mm-hmm.
works. What if I put it together like this?
Right, exactly, right. Taking the pieces and building the puzzle, and the puzzle may look a little different than what it looked like before, but still building the puzzle,
Yeah.
which is the key to it all. So, well, a lot of people have been saying that this has been a reset for them too, because they're looking. A lot of people are totally not doing what they were doing before and working for companies they were working for before because they hated the job, or if they got laid off, they're like, you know what, the layoff is really bad financially. However, it's if I can get through that layoff, it's going to give me time to really do what I've always wanted to do: write the book, do this, woodworking,
Yeah.
whatever, start my company. A lot of entrepreneurial spirit happening.
Hmm.
With this, I mean, are you fearful that we're not going to return to the way things were for a long time, or if at all? So you're setting yourself and getting prepared for if things don't go back to the way they were, with opportunities and all these different things.
One of the ideas for the t-shirts that I was going to make was, you are the 911 you've been waiting for.
That's very true. You are.
In the joke is that my wife was, it's not funny, my wife was having someone break into her house actively, and the police didn't show up for 35 minutes, and she's like on, and the dispatcher's off with, so you have to think, we're expecting somebody to come in here and watch the debate. Even how do you watch the debates and think that anybody's going to show up and take care of your problem?
Right. Right. No. No. It's what's the reflection in the mirror is. Right.
Hmm.
Right. Right. Have you always known that, or is this something you're realizing now in your life?
I mean, I had my wreck last year, so I had to kind of go, okay, this is not the body that my brain is used to, and I've
Right.
done it before after my other spine surgery, so it's just kind of like, God, and you know what you've got to do, and you've just got to do the work.
In order to move forward.
Which being in this in the first place, no one's no one's calling you. I don't have famous parents. I don't have anybody being like, did you send that, so you can,
You're right. Right.
like, people
Exactly.
like, you should look into playing Superman. I'm like, thanks. When people say that, you're like, all right.
You do have the look. I mean, it's. I could see.
I cut my own hair. I
Did you
did not mean
really?
to do it like this.
You're
I did not. I've been
lucky.
doing it.
Mine hasn't been since March. It's like.
This is the only way that I can do it. I've been trying to do a fade so it looks less Mad Max on the sides.
Was
It
it
looks a little
really?
aggressive for 2 weeks, but every time I get it, I'm just like, I just want to trim this little part, and I'm like, I'm like, God. It just messes up the whole thing,
Yeah.
and I've just got to buzz it all off.
Nick and like.
Yep, yep.
So when you look at all of this, like obviously everything came to a stop when this whole thing happened in March. What were some of the things you were working on and you were in the midst of when things? Everybody I've talked to said 2020 was going to be my biggest year yet. I had all these tour dates. I had all these gigs. I worked so hard, and 2020 was so lined up perfectly. It was going to be my unreal year, and now it's completely stopped, and I'm depressed, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what else to do because I've always done that thing as the musician, as the singer, as the performer, whatever it may be. Were there things that you were in the thick of that just came to a complete stop, other than just life itself, but productions, shows, things that just paused as a result of all this?
I think regarding theater, like doing this presentation that's coming up, I think opportunities came about in a way that made me more technically proficient and gave me skill sets that I would not have had this not occurred. Because I'm in Los Angeles, and self-taping to be in a musical is I might as well just throw it out on the freeway.
Yeah, yeah. Self-tape for a
It's like,
musical.
how do you have musical career? Broadway. I mean, people get it. I should say that, but my luck is not with self-tape music auditions.
No,
It's
no.
usually getting asked to do a reading, and that's the cool thing, like with Alex Timbers and Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson, and then going and doing other workshopping or doing readings of other projects and
You did that project with Amy Schumer. Tell us about that. How did that
inside Amy
develop?
Schumer.
Yeah, yeah. How'd
Yeah,
that
it was
develop?
just I think they initially wanted the guy from True Blood. What's his face? The blonde vampire. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It was a kind of like a French silent film idea of a barista that falls in love with her. So I ended up getting to play it because
Do
he
you,
said no.
do you like comedy? I mean, is
I
comedy
do.
something? Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you
I
were
do.
given a comedic role in a sitcom or movie, whatever, you would consider it?
Yeah, I just created an Instagram. You can be the second follower. It's called
I
Lies at
know.
9. Lies at 9. Dick Verdonic is going to be my newscaster.
So what's that? What's
Tonight
that gonna?
stories.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us about what's that gonna be like?
So just an idea of a small town aspiring newscaster who's kind of stuck in his small town. It'll be a little bit direct to camera, tonight's stories, and a little bit of what he actually thinks accidentally caught on camera. But I
Mm.
came up with another name for him, just so there's a second. You have to go through another level of finding out who I am. So I think if you're successful enough, you're going to get death threats.
Very
I
true.
was listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast just on the scalability of viewership and the likelihood of having a mentally ill.
And
So
greetings
if
from
that's you
Bruce.
listening right now, no,
If
I'm
that's you
kidding. Hey,
listening right
Bruce.
now, Bruce in sunny California, and also Tony Sheldon in Australia.
Tony.
You know Tony?
Hey,
All
yeah.
the love from Tony in Australia. Good day. He's starting his morning. Good to see you,
He's have
Tony.
him on here. He's famous. Tony Sheldon.
In Australia?
Priscilla Queen of the Desert. Yeah,
Ah, yeah.
big
Welcome,
time.
Tony.
We
We'll
were
have you
together.
booked next.
Yep.
So, what do you got in the mug there? Is it just water or coffee or tea or
Coffee.
just coffee?
Coffee. It's my sippy cup. Yep. It's
It's
early here. It's still light out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. 3 hours earlier. So, what's a typical day like for you now? What are some of the things you're doing on a you have your daughter, which is a real blessing. I mean, that
No, she's
truly
awesome.
is. Yeah. Do you see some performer in her?
She has an agent.
Does
Yeah.
she really? Is she doing
Yeah.
commercials or print or any of that? Or?
She's at the age now where she doesn't quite take direction yet. So there's like a window of time where they just. But once now that she's like 6, 7, she'll be able to start doing more of that. But I was hesitant. I had a random commercial for Smuckers come across. And I was like, I don't want to take her to an audition. I'm tired. It's kind of in the afternoon. I was looking. It was like 40 grand for it was like Smuckers, Smuckers,
Oh my
say
God.
Smuckers.
Suddenly we're like Smuckers.
No,
Oh, wow.
she was Jesse Eisenberg's baby in Louder Than Bombs. That movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. And she loves
I
it,
hope
right?
not, but she loves it. She's a double Leo, so she's never happier than when getting attention in a good way.
Hi, Heath. Hi, Jim from Carol
Hey, Carol.
Hastings, our wonderful friend
I love you,
Carol,
Carol.
and June as well. And
Judy.
hello, lovelies from Sherry. If you didn't go into entertainment, performance, acting, what would you do? What would you be doing? What is that other thing that, like for me, I studied architecture and design.
Oh,
I
cool.
in college, high school, earlier, I went into this world, radio station in high school, college newspaper, all those things. So I pursued this and love it. But architecture design was the other thing, and I still love that. What was the other thing, if there is anything, for Heath?
I'm excited to start writing again. I'm excited. The photography just is a way to kind of again be observer.
Right.
Kind of, the photography. I've really been enjoying the woodworking stuff. I'm doing a project with my buddy Bryce again this weekend. Every time I do something with him, I learn something new. So I've been building my daughter a house, an Arundel cottage.
Wow.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
I'll walk you back.
Well, I'm
This
saying
is so
that
it's only
this could
framed.
be something that you could do is like a mini web series or a show, how to woodworking, building, that kind of thing that you might be able to do as well. This is cool.
So it's framed out so far. I got to paint it and do the shutters and stuff like that.
So you've always done, I mean, were you trained? How did you know how to do all of this?
I
Is this
wasn't
something?
trained. I just kind of always, had some random survival jobs.
Yeah,
So I would
right.
help. And I was trying to remember when was the first time that I actually did anything with construction. And then I remembered when I was in junior high, I was in sixth grade. I think I was like 10. And the church that we were going to, they bought this old mortuary and were turning it into their church. And so I would go after school getting bullied, and they were knocking out walls. So I was doing demo. So I had sledgehammer and I was knocking out. Wow, knocking out walls, I think it worked. I think it helped.
And were you thinking of the bullies when you were hitting hard against the
No,
wall?
no, it wasn't that dark.
That
No.
is incredible. How long has it taken you to build that much of that house already? That's incredible.
I like to do a little bit with her. Some of it involves getting out the table saws or sharper things and making more of a mess. I'll do it when she's not home.
June says she's gonna love it. So,
She does love it. She has a design input. I was going
well,
to do shutters that open and close, and she's a bit of a climber. She likes rock climbing stuff, so I'm going to put climbing stuff on the outside.
so she has seen this already.
Mm-hmm.
There's no big
Yeah.
reveal. She's a part of this.
No, she's been
She,
working on it. She's
she,
been putting screws in the walls and
and she gonna be
sanding and
shopping for furniture for it and drapes and all the whole interior design too.
just the colors. Pink. Yep.
Pink, pink.
Yep.
That's cool. Have you been
A lot of pink.
documenting you're doing this too?
I have. I did some time lapse, the same of putting it together. I put it on there. I'm just figuring out what is the blog process for getting these projects on, because I don't know where you've been with like taking video content and you want to edit, and then by the time you start editing, I was asking another really well-known photographer, how do you just do your workload?
Well, it can be very tough. I mean, doing this show every single night and then doing my professional work, uh, it really is a balance. And doing it every night for 21 weeks, there's a balance to it. The thing about it with this is that it's live, so there's no editing.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go back. The only time we have to do that is if somebody gives us something and there's a copyright issue.
Mm.
Facebook and YouTube hate all that, so we have to edit that
Yeah.
out. Da, 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 da. But because a lot of what I've done in radio and television, stage, and everything is live, which comes naturally for me, we're doing it right now. So I don't have to, there's no going back. This show is done, and we look now at the next show. So the live element, because I know even on YouTube, so much of it is what people have on YouTube is perfectly edited stuff
Yeah.
and with quick cut edits. I mean, the guy says 3 words and it's edited, another 2 words edited, another, and I'm
That's
much
our
more.
attention span.
Some of them are really good. They're really cool. Like there you are. I don't know. Do we
Sorry, I lost
freeze?
you for a second.
That's
No,
weird.
my
That's a
Wi-Fi has been
your Wi-Fi's acting up.
questionable.
Crazy stuff. But I think because it's live, like sometimes when I watch some of the stuff, on YouTube or whatever, where it's those real constant quick cuts. Now, if it's sports you're watching, quick cuts, absolutely. But if
Hmm.
I'm trying to watch just somebody standing in front of a camera and it's constant quick cuts, I'm like, the guy can't say 4 sentences without stopping. Can he say a whole sentence fully before it's like cut, 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 cut? And I think that's why I love live because we're
Yeah.
rolling. We haven't had to cut once, although it looks like we just cut a second ago there.
Yeah, I mean, like,
But
I'll just do it with angles.
oh, there's a, yeah, different angles. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could talk through the yeah. How are you
Yeah.
there? When he's shy, he just swivels it a
Yeah.
little bit. But yeah, I love live, and I love the ability to do live. If I had to do like these shows, we've been on an hour and a half already. If most YouTube videos are 8 minutes or whatever, if I
Yeah.
was to do this where I had to edit these monsters like this, it would be forever. I'd still be on week one, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm a little perfectionistic about it, in particular about how it all looks and sounds and everything. So it would be forever. We definitely wouldn't be
That's a good reason to
21
do
X.
it live. That's
I
why I'm
love
trying to keep my weird little snippets down to 15, 20 seconds because I am such a perfectionist that things just don't ever happen.
exactly right, right. Yeah, these industries I think attract perfectionists and people who, yeah, everything is exact a certain way. And when it's live, I what I love about live too is the anything can happen. Like we have to keep it rolling, keep it moving because anything can happen. And there's something exciting. It's like sports. It's a similar feeling. Like, all right, you got to keep things moving because the bottom can drop out right now, and I think that's a really cool thing. So, um, but for you, it seems like you're going through a lot of transition. It seems like a self-evaluation, which could be a really cool thing. It's all in how, like, we're going to come out of this whole situation that we've been going through, globally with pandemics and economic and civil unrest and elections and all this stuff going on. Hopefully, better, rise from the ashes, more empathetic, more loving, less divisive. There's so much divisiveness going on. And I was saying the other day, I said, we were social distancing before we were forced to social distance for our health. We had our heads stuck on our cell phones. Everybody's stuck
Hmm.
on social media, watching what everybody else is doing, and following the Kardashians and what new pocketbook they got or whatever. Meanwhile, all these other things were bubbling up, and we were attacking each other and shooting and yelling and fighting and road rage and all this stuff going on. But yet, everybody was so interested in all that other buzz and bling stuff and the new iPhone 400 because it's purple or whatever, and staring at it. And now the world has stopped. All of it stopped. The great equalizer, like the Depression, it just stopped. So what do? Do we continue all the divisiveness and the buzz and bling chasing, or do we come together and sort of
Hmm.
look at the things at life that really matter most, inspiring other people and inspiring ourselves and doing it collectively? That's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping comes out of all
Yeah.
this
What do you
horrific.
need? What do other people need?
Yeah,
It's like putting the mask on yourself first, like what I have what I need, and then going. That's something that I started doing this. Call my calling it drop the bag, and I'm still formulating this where I'm making basically a to go kit, and it's just for men because that's my personal experience. And from climbing Whitney, what do I need to take care of myself hygiene wise? And we were talking. We both of our moms come from personal product backgrounds, so I was thinking, what do I need to if I'm somebody who is does not have housing or does not have the infrastructure to be able to take care of myself hygienically. So I created duffel bags, calling it drop the bag, where it's like two t-shirts, two underwear, two socks that you can wash with Brahmer soap. That's how I washed my clothes when I was climbing a mountain. And then like a whole dop kit to be able to take care of yourself
so
and have a
survival.
proceed, just at a base level to be able to take care of how you present yourself and
That's a
tie that
cool
in with
idea.
gentleman's work in progress.
That's a cool idea. Yeah, that's a cool idea. So do you envision who that customer or who that client would be? Is there a typical client, or it could really be anybody, any age? Any, they're in
It can
any.
be anybody, any age, anybody, any age. And I think it's just having I mean, when you're going through a transition, I think, in doing the men's retreat that I did this. I don't know if you've heard. There's a thing called Mankind Project. There's another one called
Yeah,
Everyman. I did an Everyman weekend where it was just kind of like everyone who was there it was for men, but it was for
yeah.
men who were going through transitions and looking for help, looking or someone had sent there because a family member or a wife sent them there because they thought they needed help navigating something. That it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, hey, I would really like to learn this thing, whether you think that you're good at it or not, and not feel embarrassed or. And I think a lot of those feel I wouldn't come to this place had it not being a dad. I mean,
Right.
parents are
That.
vicious to each other,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah. Yeah.
moms, and how you're supposed to act and present yourself.
Right.
I find myself seeing where my daughter's at and trying to take the pressure off of her, so that she can experience it. You know, I think she said the night before last, she goes, Dad, I like having you around because I feel safe.
That's a beautiful
And I was
thing
like,
for,
that's it. I mean, that's
yeah,
it.
that's a
Out
bit
of all of
for
this,
a
I
daughter to
don't
say
even
to her
care what
daddy.
else is.
Yeah, that tops
Yep.
any script, any project, any excursion at the Amazon or what have
Hmm.
you. Do you have people that? I mean, it's a very inspiring story. What you're talking about is very empowering for people that could be watching this too. Um, it may surprise some people too. They're like, "Hey, come on! He lives in L.A. He's in California, sun and surf. Hollywood is 4 blocks over, or whatever. He's got everything, all the riches of life. I'm sure he's got limos and helicopters picking him up, and everything is perfect because he's there in Tinseltown. But life doesn't really work that way."
Nope. I serve those people
Yeah.
at a restaurant that I can't tell you because I signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Non-disclosure with restaurant.
Yeah, it's not. I'm serious. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You can't even say what kind of food they have, right?
Coastal American.
Oh, let's see now. That wouldn't
Yeah.
be. That's not In and Out.
It was an interesting experience too, coming from kind of like small town, and even living in New York, you see wealth, but here the disparity in wealth is just kind of. I mean, and in front of this place is a permanently parked, Rolls Royces, Lambos, and
Yeah,
Ferraris.
yeah,
It's just kind
yeah,
of silly.
yeah. Right. It's L.A. right now with the homelessness. That, at least from what I've been seeing, is incredible, huh? What you see on TV is exactly what.
It's pretty bonkers.
It's really interesting. I was doing this thing for PBS. It was great performances. This is like 2013, 2014. And there's this singer, Jackie Ivanko. And she was doing this show, Music of the Movies. And she was singing all these musical hits from the movies. And it was, I think David Foster was involved in that. And they shot it at the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles. So they flew us out west, and we had some downtime in between shooting, and that was really amazing that we had this downtime, and which was rare. So I started walking through the area and taking a look at what's going on in the area, sort of Theater Row there, Broadway and everything. And I was walking towards this area, and these kids, like, I don't know, they're probably like 15, 13, 14 years old, run up to me. And they're like, sir, where are you going, sir? Where are you going? I'm like, well, just, looking at the area, walking around and seeing what's going on. And they said, do you know where you're headed? And I said, no, I'm just going down that, I'm just looking, taking pictures, avid photographer too. They said, do you know what's 2 blocks over? And I'm like, nah, what? They said, Skid Row. And I said, Skid Row? They said, you're obviously not from here. And I said, no, I know from the East Coast. And they said, well, you don't want to go on that block. Now, I had never even heard of Skid Row. I thought Skid Row was a phrase that was used in the Little Rascals or
Mm.
something from the 1930s that was like Skid Row, meaning, you hit bottom or whatever. There was a phrase, but they said,
Little
no,
Shop
no.
of Horrors.
Yeah, it's like Skid Row. It's like one of those 1930s terms or something. And they said, no. That's something that is a little bit different. And these little kids that ran up and said, "Don't go in that direction."
Yeah, it's like 8 blocks of tents.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's there's a lot of people in need and a lot of people that are hurting. Absolutely, and whatever you could do. Like when this whole thing started with the pandemic, we tried to, before things started really shutting down, we were delivering food to people. We were trying to roll up our sleeves and help those who didn't have anything. Still trying to do that too, as best as we can. But you know, you got to do what you can, right? You got to do what you can to try to help people,
Hmm.
and that's the key. What are some of the things that you're doing?
I'm trying to put together these bags, and I think as I start as I start building up the website and seeing what I want to put on there and figuring out how I call it a blog loosely, but figuring out how I want to reach out to people and learn how to do different handicrafts or see how they're tied into the community. Like the shoe designer that I'm working with does, obviously shoes, for kids in the places where his shoes are produced. I'm just trying to whether it's sourcing things for those bags through that or finding a way to create a template for I don't know, or even just creating a community board where, for me, that the men's group, just having a place where you can talk about what's going on. And, when I had a sense, with my relationship transition, I had an intuition about it, and I was reaching out to other people who had gone through it. When you don't feel like you're experiencing something alone,
Yeah.
it's of a huge benefit.
Right, exactly. So, what are some of the cool things that inspire you through everything that, you're very open about your life, and I think that's really cool because it can inspire other people. What are some of the things that, when you wake up, inspire Heath?
Oh man. Well, it's usually my daughter.
Yeah, yeah,
First thing, a little bit
absolutely. Yeah,
before dawn. Um, and she just wakes up with such enthusiasm that it's hard not to.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I, it sounds cheesy, but just really trying to be grateful. And I got this kind of a cheesy Mickey quote. It's like, the way to get started is stop talking and get doing.
Yeah,
It's just like I've spent a lot of time talking about stuff, and now it's just kind of like, now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to work on this project and not, talk about it more than I'm working on it, which is kind of a revelation.
right, exactly. You're just going to make the move. And what would you say to somebody who's considering going into acting now, who's maybe they're in the Midwest, they're in the South, they are wherever, and they're like, "Oh, I want to do this." What would you say? Some inspiration or
Oh man,
be an
I don't
accountant?
know if it would
Or
be, yeah. Well, that was my dual major. I did accounting courses. I audited payroll on spring break.
really?
Yeah, my dad, uh, he's a CFO now, but I've through the companies that he's worked for, I've literally worked every job from restocking the warehouse to landscaping to auditing payroll to cleaning the bathrooms.
Yeah, right,
I think
right.
it really just is about. When I was younger, I thought about it as more of like, I'm good at singing, or I'm good at doing this, or I'm doing a good job, or people will say that I'm good. And now it's more about what's interesting. You know, I
Right.
think for you, I mean, that's great that every night you get to talk to somebody about their life. I'm just interested in people and their strange
Yeah.
behaviors, and
Sure. Yeah.
you know,
Right. Right. So
my
you
wife's
must
gonna,
you like
I,
psychology too, figuring people out and why do they say what they
yeah,
say and do what they do and yeah.
yeah. Listening to a lot of podcasts, and it's just the idea of incorporating your shadow. It's like that's the other thing with being a parent, or being angry or being frustrated or getting, upset or frustrated with someone else's behavior. It's usually, if you spot it, you've got it. So I'm trying to be, I think it's not inspiring, but just be honest with yourself. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be, and have a bunch of other different skill sets,
Right.
unless you have somebody who can help you do that. But then if somebody, I can't say that somebody who's, had their way, well oiled for them to get into this industry is going to be less talented. But there's something interesting about somebody who's been through a struggle,
Yeah. Right. Right.
and you can't really avoid it. I remember doing the Good Vibrations workshop at New York Stage and Film, and it was so cool. And I again felt like a fraud. I'm singing Beach Boys music, and I'm talking to Bill Pullman about a play he wrote on the International Space Station, watching the Iraq War. And I was into politics then, from college, and just having this hour and a half conversation with Bill Pullman about politics and the war, and then saying, he'll be like, "What are you here doing?" I'm like, "Good Vibrations, a musical. It's going to Broadway next year." And he's like, "You haven't paid your dues yet."
Mm.
And
Mm.
that haunted me. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
someone will say something that
Yeah.
it seems innocuous, will just
And
haunt
it
you
sinks
for,
in and stays there, right?
yeah.
So what do you do? Do you retreat or does that give you determination to prove him wrong?
Well, it's not even proving him wrong. He was right.
He
You
was
know.
right. So you knew that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I knew I was lucky with the gigs, and I know that I'm lucky with the gigs that I've had. At the same
Sure.
time, it's kind of like I don't know if it's just if you're getting into this where it's not just wanting the approval or the applause. It is the fulfillment of being able to perform or be on the edge of something. You're kind of like on the when you're if you're okay being uncomfortable. And for a lot of people I know now, they're leaving the city, and rightly so. I was back in February. We were back in February deciding whether we wanted to move back to the East Coast, and I'm so glad we didn't, because it's just, I mean, what would you? I don't know.
Are you somebody who's always? Are you tough to please for yourself?
For myself, yes, absolutely. I'm brutal. I'm my own.
Yeah.
I'm a
Worst,
brutal critic.
your own
Yeah,
worst
yeah,
critic.
for me.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't apply it to other people. It's weird. It's like talking to a. Sometimes I feel like if I'm especially working on the comedy stuff, and I found this in relationship with people who I was close with, where they would think that I would see something as funny rather than someone who's looking at math, kind of looking at the problem rather than, or looking at a beautiful painting and trying to figure out how to fix something. You're just looking at it with a different lens.
yeah.
I think I can change. I think I can change those, but when I really really enjoy something, it feels like it has that kind of divine play. That kind of, it's like watching Dave Chappelle.
Yeah,
He's just the
right.
master of the air.
Right. Who are some of the people that you've looked up to? Did you like George Carlin, Rodney
Yeah,
Dangerfield? I mean,
George Carlin, Bill Hicks, um, Alan Alda.
yeah, Alan
I really
Alda.
loved in MASH. I grew up with MASH.
Yeah, yeah.
And then same time, really love those. I'll always watch with my dad those detective procedurals like Hunter. Do you remember Hunter?
Oh, yeah,
The guy
yeah.
from the Rams.
That was on NBC.
The
Yeah,
commish. I love those. I like getting older. I mean, the industry's paused right now, but I was always
yeah.
kind of told that I'm not going to work until I get older. So I feel like I'm kind of lucky.
So you
I
feel
was a
there,
weird picked on kid who looks the way that I do. So when I was always sent into auditions where I'm supposed to be the hot guy in the elevator, and I'm a weirdo.
and you never felt it. You never
No, I
felt
never
what
felt.
you never felt what they saw.
Yeah.
The two things didn't match, right?
Mm-mm.
Has that gotten better? Or do you think that will always be the case for you? And in a way that
I'm a
keeps
lot more comfortable with myself. I'm a lot more comfortable being a lot more. I was going to say comfortable being weird, but it's just kind of my you know
it makes you humble too. I mean,
yeah.
when you don't, there's enough people who walk into rooms to say, you know what, now that I'm here, the party starts.
Hmm.
I've never been like that myself. I've
No.
never been the person that walks in and says, Jim's here, now the fun begins, or now,
Yeah.
you guys, it's been useless until I walked in. I've never
You
been
see
like
how it
that.
ticks first.
Yeah, 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 right.
Yeah.
Right. I've never been that person who says, "Hey, I'm the one." Yeah, without me,
Yeah.
nothing happens and all that. I've never been like that either, and
I
I'm
had
glad that
some
I'm
I had
not.
some moments, and that's
Keeps,
when you
yeah,
don't get your security deposit back. In that
that's
stage of life.
that is very true.
Yeah.
You don't for some reason you don't, and you don't pursue it, and that's it.
Yeah.
That is funny. That is funny. So. So you've got some cool things that are brewing, which is
Hmm.
it's exciting. I think that's really really awesome, and you know, you just keep moving forward. You got a beautiful daughter, and
Right.
everybody's going through all these transitions. We're all analyzing what we're doing and who we are, and and the key thing is that everybody stays healthy and mind, body, and soul, because all those
Yeah.
things have to be in check, not just the body or the mind. It's got to be a great mindset where we're all balanced and
Have a
you know
mental health emergency plan. It's not a joke. I
are you
always
gonna
I have like a little crappy trumpet that only makes a fart noise, and I always say to the keep,
yeah.
to the keep. That's like when shit's going down.
Well, I mean, I have the cast of characters here. We got the George Burns. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we have, and we got the Gilligan, that the audience seems to
Oh
love,
yeah.
and we got the Genie. She's in there blinking. So we got a
I
couple of
watched all
living things.
those shows.
And then, oh yeah, those are all great.
Hmm.
And then I always tell people at the end to relax, to make sure to breathe and to relax. And it's
Hmm.
I always tell them that it's something that I have to remember to do myself. As much as I say, relax, take care of yourself, love one another, and all, you got to remember to do it for yourself too. You
I
know?
can't in traffic. I can't.
Traffic's tough.
In LA, I mean, I have to.
That's a 5-hour event just to go 4 blocks.
Yeah, it's like you have an hour and a half left, 4 miles.
That's it. Yeah,
My
that's
daughter's
right.
first words, not kidding. She'll go, go, go,
Just go. Yeah, because
go,
you're.
go,
Has it
go.
ever made you late for a gig or a project or an audition or anything, being stuck in traffic? LA
Oh yeah,
traffic?
and the best part is you know an hour and a half before you get there that you're already late. So the whole trip you already know you're late. It's
That's
not like
so
you're just kind of
aggravating. Yeah.
that's like Waze
Yeah.
makes it worse.
And then the minute you walk in, the first thing they say is, "You're late." Like I've been
Yeah,
rehearsing that for an hour and a half.
yeah.
So you got to leave at 6 a.m. for something that happens at noon.
Hmm.
Well, Heath,
Or
this
it's
was
or it's like one line for CSI, and they're like, he's ready to see you now, and then you're done, and it was like 3 hours in traffic, and that was it. And you're like,
was there ever a part or ever anything that you passed up on that you wish you did take?
um, not that I don't, it's weird. I don't really have regrets like that. There were, those near misses where it's just like
That would have been
that would have
good.
been consequential. Yeah, I've said no to one thing where it was good for the other person, but it was also just kind of that time in my life. I just didn't really feel like that would have been. I would have the way that I would have felt about myself, and it's also having a kid too. How do you
Hmm.
do theater? For 450 a week? It just you can't.
And people don't realize that.
No,
They think you're talking about 4,550 for a week,
no.
right?
If you're
It's a
doing
ton.
Broadway, you're cutting even. You're cutting even. So those, I mean,
It's amazing, right? People don't
yeah.
realize that. Absolutely, absolutely. So, how about a role that you would love to have? I mean, have you ever
I'm
thought
writing
of?
it. I'm
You,
writing it.
I was just. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was about to say. You must be intuitive. I
yeah,
was going to say, have you thought of creating
yeah.
the role, creating the project, creating the production? So you're doing
Yeah.
that now.
Hmm.
Good. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep us posted on that. Do you have a game
I
plan
will.
as far as when, or you're just letting it
Um,
go
I'm
and?
kind of I'm trying to figure out. I've been cleaning up my website. I have my I have my buddy ready to shoot, so I just got to sit down, and again, it's like it's facing your own demons because some of the stuff and where I feel like I'm kind of positioned between the theater community is kind of at the spear point of social activism, and I feel like my other foot is my town in Pennsylvania was literally called New Freedom, Pennsylvania, and there are just a handful of people. So I feel like I'm kind of have feet in both worlds where it's kind of like working class and then the artistic community, and there just feels, especially being in Hollywood, it feels kind of funny having the people that I serve at the place that I'm at moralized to the rest of the country and then see their kids. I go, no, you know, it's a weird. So I feel like something in that vein, whatever I'm going, whatever what I will come out with, I'm certainly uncomfortable doing, but I feel like it's necessary because, like
Right.
you said, the vitriol and it's everything is just so silly. I can't turn on the news and have it any news and have it not be
Everything is
someone's
breaking.
opinion. It's just an
Yeah. So it's
opinion.
all opinion now. Yeah. It's all breaking news. Breaking news.
Yeah.
Every story is breaking news.
It's like
Uh,
we don't know yet, but what we do know, we don't know, and what that means if that's true.
right. And then well, let's now we're going to bring in our 7 paid experts to
Hmm.
discuss.
Yep.
Discuss.
Yep.
I don't want to discuss it. It's like you've been discussing it all day. Let's make things
Yep.
happen. All this discussing, I know it's crazy stuff. But
I'm forming a committee. I'm gonna have to do different characters.
the Calvert Committee,
Yeah, the CALVERT committee. I can't use my real name. I'm gonna make
Calvert.
them work. Make them
Uh,
work to find. Make them work to send me harassing
I was
emails.
going to say Calvert's Calvary.
Yeah.
Well, this was really
Yeah.
cool. This was really
Yeah. It was
cool
great talking to you.
getting a chance to learn more about your passions and your inspirations and some of the incredible work that you've done and you continue to do and some of the cool projects that you're sort of, toying with. You got a lot of things happening that are up in the air and you're sprinkling attention at each of them and, you know, focusing in on the ones that you really want to have come to fruition. And that's cool stuff. It's good that you have quite a few things as opposed to just one. I'm similar in that way. I've got a lot of different things that I do, and I
Hmm.
and sometimes you can complain about it and say, sometimes I wish I just went into that 9 to 5 thing, punched the clock, and went home, and that was it. And then I say, you know what? I don't think I'm cut out for a cubicle. I don't
Mm-mm.
think that little area of just the
Yeah, they're like,
laptop
did
and
you
the
get the
phone
memo?
and
Did you sign the? Can you sign this copy of the memo? It's going to go in your file.
and that's usually the face they make.
I've been in that world. It's like
Yeah.
it's so funny laughing at someone firing you. You're like, you can do it.
You're encouraging the
Yep.
firer.
All right.
That's it.
This is
Well,
hard for both of us.
right, right. That's right. It hurts me more than it hurts you. No,
Yep.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Hey, you're the best, and thanks for all
Thanks,
this
man.
time. 2 hours. Could you believe
Yeah.
we chatted for 2 hours?
No, that was great.
I
That
tell
was
you,
great.
I mean, that nice hammock and everything that you're in. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a cool bit. The sun rays coming in, and
Yeah.
a lot of people saying thanks for coming in, and thanks for coming on the show tonight from Renee in Iowa, Juanita, South Africa. Great
Oh,
conversation,
that's really
guys.
cool.
Thanks, Heath. Your daughter is lucky to have
Thanks.
such a hands-on dad. And Frances needs to know how many highway lanes in Los Angeles. When we were there, she remembers 7.
It could be 7. It could be 1.
Right, depends on.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
God help you if you have to merge during the apocalypse here. It's just like, no, no, please me. No, please me.
right,
Please me.
right,
It's
exactly.
just going to be the end of the world. Is just going to be a bunch of people on their phone as meteors like strengthen.
But the hair will look good.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
No, maybe not mine unless I can get back to my guy. Yep.
Thank you, Jim and Heath, for another night of wonderful conversation on the Jim Masters Show. Absolutely. You're very welcome, Mary. And June can't wait to see any
June.
of us again. I know, I know. Uh, very nice listening tonight. Thanks to you both. Absolutely our pleasure. The actor, tell us about that. People are probably saying, I don't understand. I thought he is the actor. Tell us about
Yeah.
the Heath like the actor
Well,
Calvert.
just trying to tell people my
It's
name
cool.
ever. They're like Heath, Heath, and I'll say, "What's your name?" And I'll say Heath, and they'll say Keith, and
Oh, they
they'll
say
say Keith,
Keith?
and I'll say Heath, and they'll say Keith, and I'll say Heath, and be like, "Oh, Heath, like the actor."
I like that face. Like you've
Yeah,
had it happen.
exactly.
You've had it
Yeah.
happen one too many
Oh,
times.
Heath, like Heath Ledger. Yeah,
Isn't there a Heath bar or something too?
there is.
Candy bar?
Yep.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
college RA had it on my door.
Did
That was
it?
another thing. Are you sweet?
What was your answer?
Yeah.
Of course I
His
am.
face. His face.
That's face. Thanks for this beautiful conversation, all the fantastic stories you've shown us. What a terrific father you are as
Oh,
well.
thanks.
Beautiful stuff. Heath, I hope we do get a chance to get together and break bread.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna make some stuff. After I make some stuff, I'm gonna come
yeah,
on and
yeah, you're welcome back.
yeah,
And I hope the show met the expectations and you enjoyed your time with me as much as I have with
it's
you.
great. It's nice talking to you. You should see how desperate my mail lady is to get away from me lately. It's just like trying to talk to any adult when you're cooped up in your apartment. It's like I gotta go deliver this mail now.
That's right. I have
I have
boxes.
other stuff to do.
I will be back tomorrow,
Yep.
Heath. All right.
Thanks so much.
That's it. And Soraya says, "Hi, Jim and Heath. You're a cute and handsome guy. See,
Thanks.
see, he's humble. See, that's a Midwestern. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, my friend. You take care. You be well. Continued blessings, and again for you and your daughter and your family. And you're welcome back anytime. And appreciate all this time, 2 hours together. And
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
great.
it was like living room chat, and it felt like it was an hour. Not even
Literally.
that. Yeah, just went by in
Yeah.
a New York minute.
All
You
right.
take care, and we'll welcome you back again soon. Okay?
Thanks. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye now. That was cool, wasn't it? Kathleen says, "Bye, Heath. Thanks for being here." Really cool direction that some of these conversations have been going in the last few nights with some of the incredible guests that we've had, which I think is really cool. Everybody talking about their careers and their passions, but also opening up and telling us about their lives and all the cool things that drive them, and the trials and tribulations of life. And hope you guys are certainly inspired by it all. And you guys are. We appreciate all the great comments coming in here too from all around the world. Love it. All this levity coming in here. Want to let you know tomorrow night we have a great guest. This is Steve Solier. He's also in California, and he is a prolific writer. He's written scripts for a multitude of some of your favorite television shows, Murder, She Wrote, and so many others. He's done animated voices for incredible characters that you've loved over the years. And he also wrote a book about his experience being a friend of Groucho Marx and so many others. Really, really funny, witty guy. It's going to be a fun night tomorrow night. We're thanking our very special guest, HeathCalvert. But tomorrow night is Steve Soliar, and we're going to have a terrific, terrific time. George Hutton, we have slid to November 8th. He has something happening tomorrow night that is almost right in line with the timing of our show. So we said, why don't we just do it in November? We're going to do it in an early time. November 8th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. in Ireland and the United Kingdom. So that'll be great. So all the folks watching in Ireland who are a fan of Irish singer, songwriter, lyric tenor, and pop star George Hutton, are going to be able to watch the show live. The person on your screen right now is not George Hutton. That is Steve Soliar. He is our comedic guest tomorrow night. We're going to have a lot of fun with him. He's all excited. He sent me a bunch of stuff. Again, we thank our very special guest, HeathCalvert, tonight. Actually, Steve, I think I'm rushing the week. Steve is Saturday. I think today is Friday. I think I want this week to end. Tomorrow is Friday. That is Jane. Jane is with us. Jane Brugier. She is with us. She is a multi-Tony award-winning producer. She's worked on every kind of Broadway show you can think of. She is a theatrical expert extraordinaire, and she's also produced a lot of other productions. We're going to be chatting with her tomorrow. And then Steve Soliar, who is the writer and actor, voiceover artist, and so much more. He's here on Saturday. And Heath was here tonight. Perfect. Good stuff. All right, gang, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Everybody have a good night. We thank you guys for being here. It was a real pleasure. Don't forget to relax, take care of one another, love one another, be well, put smiles on your faces. Really inspiring conversation with Heath tonight. All your friends and cast of characters say good night. We will be here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we hope you are here too. I want to wish everybody a good night. Love you all. Thanks for spreading the sunshine all around the world and telling everybody about the show. Don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, because when we have musical artists who are performing, those will exclusively be on YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. Good night.